looking for some gold at the end of my rainbow. Yes, and someday I will find her on a Parkway blue blinder. On a Parkway blue blinder. Someday I will find her. Yes, and someday I will find her on a Parkway blue blinder. On a Parkway blue blinder. On a Parkway. On the Parkway, on an autumn day. Yes, and leaves fall like confetti in a New York parade. On the Parkway, on an autumn day. Yes, and leaves fall like confetti in a New York parade.
I got 2 NCAA tournament trivia.
There we go. All right, sorry about that. Welcome, everybody, to the Scenic City Sports Podcast for the week of March the 23rd, 2025, and we got a little bit of everything going on this week. You got we got pitchers and catchers, and we already got spring training baseball is already going on.
Well, you got opening day this Thursday.
Opening days this coming week.
Oh, no, we've already had opening. Well, that's true.
That's true.
Opening.
You've got.
I'm sorry. You're going to let the Dodgers and Cubs go play 2 opening games in Japan and then come back and they got to finish playing preseason games.
Currently, we
Thank
have
you, Commissioner Buffoon.
NCAA tournament is currently going on. Duke won big today against Baylor. Kentucky's up big on Illinois right now. Tennessee won last night. Alabama's up on St. Mary's.
So this would put a Tennessee-Kentucky matchup.
This would be Kentucky. They've been circling that one for a while. Let's try to get
big
this
Tennessee
together.
fan at basketball, big Kentucky fan. Kentucky's had them twice this year, but can they beat them 3 times in a row? Can they beat them when it really counts?
It is really hard to beat a team 3 times. It doesn't matter who the team is. I mean, it is not easy.
And are they better or worse than Tennessee? I think they like to play.
I think they're about even.
I think Tennessee likes to keep you into that 55 to 65 range, and they want to play it. They want to play 85 or
If
better.
Tennessee plays defense the way Tennessee played defense last night against UCLA, they'll beat anybody in the tournament.
Well, Tennessee doesn't want to get in a shootout.
No.
They don't want to get up in that 85.
That was what I was about to say.
Yeah,
if Tennessee gets into a situation where, let's say, Kentucky starts hitting the 3 ball and Tennessee has to try and answer, it could get ugly in a hurry.
Well, that's that.
I don't think it will.
Tennessee,
but it could.
They can hit 3.
They can.
Not when they have to.
Yeah, can they hit it to the degree of scoring 95 points against a pretty good team? I don't think.
And that's not. I mean, and that's not anything new at Tennessee. I mean, over the last few years, that's kind of been their.
No, that's who
they've been. I mean, they're a defensive team. They've always had a couple of decent 3-point. I mean, Dalton Connect last year was awesome. Mm-hmm. You know, all the way back to Chris Lofton and guys like that. But it's when you force their feet to the fire and they have to make them to hang with you. they don't respond to that well. And that's a Rick Barnes thing.
That's
that
a
goes
fair
all the way
description.
back to when he was at Texas.
That's
His
a fair
teams were that way.
He wants to. He wants to.
He wants you to
squeeze that
grind it out.
into that 50, 60.
He wants to be the 1998 New York Knicks.
And well,
I mean, he does.
And I've been critical in saying from the standpoint, can you win in 2025 playing, 1995 basketball? And I think getting to the final 8 is the ceiling of Tennessee ball. I don't think they're going to pass that.
I think
Because they haven't put 5 games together once they got into
I think in the
league.
tournament,
They hadn't put 5 games together all year.
I think in the tournament, and Scott will probably agree, I think anybody can find their groove and go on a run.
Oh, yeah.
And in this modern era of it is not the haves and the have-nots anymore, I think anybody can put together a run of games. I mean, I think...
Especially this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I think Duke is the best team in the tournament, but a lot of that's gonna hang around whether or not Cooper Flagg is healthy. If he's completely healthy, they're going to be hell on wheels to deal with, but I don't know that he's completely 100%. I think Florida is really good and strong. I think Auburn is really good and strong. I mean, you don't ever count out a Michigan State team. I think there's a lot of teams that could catch fire. I thought, to be honest, I was really disappointed to see that Clemson didn't make it any further in than they did. I really thought they beat us earlier in the year.
Clemson didn't even show
No.
up until about 5 minutes
Well,
to go,
and
and almost still won the game. But
Louisville didn't look good either. I mean, I just...
yeah, that was the thing. They were ranked 10th in the country, and then they got
Yes.
seeded 8, and everybody complained, well, they were 10th seed, why are they an 8th
They
seed?
were exactly where they needed to
Because
be.
they're not good.
Well, and let me say this: if you'd have watched that St. John's team who won the Big Ten, right,
Mm-hmm.
and lost only 2 or 3 games all year, if you'd watched them play and said that was the first time you had the opportunity to see them, you said, well, what a fraud they were.
Well, I think they had.
Because they didn't play well at all.
I think one of their top players was hurt. Too.
Shot 27% from the field. You don't beat anybody doing that.
I never.
Arkansas had a great game against them.
Arkansas did play well.
And
I
that's
never
also...
thought this year that
Go
St.
ahead.
John's was
All
all
that.
that.
But see, but
playing
that-
kind of a weak
But that
conference.
game too, though, that's Calipari versus Patino,
Yeah.
and that that's always a good matchup. I mean, but I got to give credit where credit's due. Rick Pitino at his age to still be out there taking a team to a conference championship,
Oh yeah.
that's impressive.
Yeah.
I mean,
But that was the first time I've seen them, and if that was the first time you'd watched them play,
oh yeah, you would have thought they were garbage.
That's not
Yeah.
really that good of a
Mhm.
team.
No, I agree.
And we know that Arkansas struggled in the season
Oh
itself.
yeah,
So
they
that's
were.
not the lead of the SEC there.
No,
I
it's
will
not.
say it was nice to see one of those former Big East names back in the tournament.
Oh yeah,
I mean, we don't have the Georgetowns and Syracuse anymore.
Mhm.
Still have Connecticut, but
Xavier.
it's good to see
Yeah.
St. John's. Well, I'm talking about the
Oh, yeah,
You
the
know,
original. Yeah.
the heyday of the Big East.
Oh, yeah,
St.
the,
John's, Georgetown,
Tuesday,
Syracuse.
Tuesday night ESPN.
Yeah, I called it Big Ten.
That
Big
was
East.
Yeah.
that was the coaches in that.
Providence.
Seton
Were they
Hall,
Seton Hall,
Villanova,
Providence, Villanova? Yeah.
and
Oh,
the
yeah.
coaches. It was like Rolly Massimino,
Oh.
and it was
And I don't know
DJ
if-
Carlissimo,
Yes.
and
I don't know if you saw this the other day.
Boeheim.
They were talking about a
George
merger
John
of the Big East and the ACC
Lou
from a
Carnesecca.
basketball standpoint.
They're what?
A Big East ACC merger
From a basketball
from a
standpoint?
basketball standpoint.
How
I don't
that
think
could
they
be-
need ACC wouldn't bag that bunch to come from a football
How
standpoint.
The
many
ACC doesn't need
basketball
it.
teams is that 24?
Would be, yeah,
30?
that'd be huge.
Just a way for the two conferences to try to compete with the other two that are
I
growing.
think the ACC is still, like it or not, it is still one of the top couple of basketball conferences in America because, I mean, now North Carolina, this was not a good North Carolina team. Their season went exactly about like you expected when they got to the tournament. Duke has been Duke this year. Clemson had a pretty decent season. Louisville played pretty well. I mean, they had, but I don't think anybody was expecting in the years past we've had the SEC crank as many teams in there as we have this year, but we've never had the SEC as many teams in there, and all of them looking as good as they've looked in the first couple of rounds.
And it wasn't too long ago that they only got 3 in.
Exactly.
They only got 3. There was an article on ESPN.com about what the conference did basically to turn around its basketball programs and how they needed to allocate some funds and
it started a few years ago
focus on that.
when South Carolina hired Frank Martin. It started there, and then Kentucky already had a good program. Then you got the other schools start going out. Tennessee brings in Rick Barnes. Auburn brings in Bruce Pearl. All of a sudden, Alabama goes out there and gets a big time coach. Everybody just started. They started raising that bar, and when you raise the bar, everybody else either competes or they fall away.
Scott, you may remember this, and it was a few years into Rick Barnes' tenure at Tennessee. He was interested in the UCLA job, and I think Tennessee come a calling with equal money, maybe a dollar more, and he comes swinging back into Knoxville.
And I think
that's the coach I think that got that job and still been there.
Yeah, the Rick Barnes had been offered the Tennessee job before, several years back. Actually, I think before he went to Clemson when he left Texas, and he said that his agent or somebody, because it was in that story, said no, Tennessee doesn't care anything about basketball. A few years later, he decides to make that move, and now they're
you could
20,000.
I think there was so much time there where Pat dominated in basketball, and then it was football driven. But you can also say that about when did Tennessee start caring about baseball? I mean, that was put on the shelf for a long time.
It all matters.
Look at their facilities that they let go.
It all matters when you bring in that right coach. I'll argue that the biggest or the best move and the best transition in Tennessee basketball was when they first brought in Bruce Pearl.
Oh, yeah.
Bruce Pearl comes in there, completely turns that program around, gets them to where they're number 1 in the country, which is the first time they had been that ever. Yeah. And all of a sudden, a bunch of Tennessee fans went, well, damn, we can find basketball players?
Yeah.
And that got the mentality more of, well, football's not been great here recently. Maybe basketball is going to be good. And so you took a school that really had never, I can think back to, when Allen Houston and his dad was the coach, when he was there. And can think all the way back to Ernie and Bernie.
Yeah.
But, a few times Tennessee's had a few good players. But when you put them in that situation, all of a sudden it was like, wow, we've never, this is new. We like this.
Yeah. We had a string of coaches there that
Quanzo wasn't great.
God bless us.
But
Wade Houston to Buzz Williams to great Donnie Tyndall.
But where we are right now, if Coach Barnes decided to step away tomorrow,
you find a coach.
Our AD has some good, decent list.
Yes,
he ought to be able to find an outstanding.
And
coach
he does.
Absolutely could.
Every athletic director has already got a wish list of. It doesn't matter if you've got the best coach in the country. You've got a wish list. If he leaves or steps down, that you can plug in there or call immediately.
And I don't mean taking a shot at somebody that we think might be good, kind of like they've done here with the Lady Vols, and it's kind of paid off. But they didn't know that she would be great. She didn't have that kind of pedigree coming in, but I think they can do that if Coach Barnes was to give it up.
I think you do. I think you look at a guy. What about a guy like Will Wade? What about a guy like...
Of course, he just accepted North Carolina State's job.
Right, but he'd leave North Carolina State to come to Tennessee.
Before he signs the...
Yeah, I think they're...
I'll tell you another name, and I don't think he would be super high up on the list, because I think they would want more of a name, an established name. And I shudder to say it because I got a feeling somebody's going to pluck him away at some point. Dan Earl can coach.
Sure, he can coach. I think
Dan Earl can coach.
I don't think that's what Tennessee would do. I think they believe that if an all-time winning coach like in Coach Barnes leagues, I think they can go get somebody that has been knocking on the door.
It's going to open you up to find the next generation. Barnes is your guy that solidified your program. Now you go back and find your next star.
Yep.
And let's talk about the Mocs for a second. I mean, good night.
You know, for both of them's sake, Scott, the fact that they're in the NIT versus the big dance, they're getting to play longer.
Yeah.
Because we'd have seen, you know, if UTC would have won that, they'd have played Tennessee right out of the gates. They'd been one and done.
Yeah.
And so it would have been a big party for that lasted all of the
And
day.
who was it? UNC Greensboro, the women that ended up beating UTC, I think, for the conference championship. They get USC first round and get beat by about 7.
So they're where they need to be for far as playing and having success.
Yeah, you're going to have – and I'm telling you right now, the Chattanooga men can win the NIT. They absolutely can win the NIT. And I know they've already beaten 2 ranked teams or 2 seeded teams. They can beat Bradley. They can go to the Final Four. They're probably going to get like maybe Stanford or something. There's no world beaters in that NIT bracket. I mean, the Mocs could literally pull this off. And I was talking with my wife. I remember the last time UTC won an NIT game was against, as far as I know, was against Clemson. And it was Gerald Wilkins' senior year.
Oh, my God.
And I was actually at that game. And the Roundhouse was absolutely rocking.
God, I remember going back to the Roundhouse in those days.
You know, and they kind of got lucky. Dayton had double booked its arena, I think, for like a high school tournament. And then Dayton all of a sudden wins, and they're in the NIT, and they can't host the game, so Chattanooga gets it. And now here's Chattanooga in the Elite 8 of the NIT.
And not to change the subject, but congratulations to some rocky weeks over there at Chat Prep. They bring home state championship.
Yeah, again.
And let's be honest, they needed some good news over there.
Yeah, I mean they've been dealing with one black eye after another.
Yeah, they needed some good news over there. You gotta give them their just due on that
was
one.
good. All right, I told you before the show.
Trivia question.
I had a couple trivia questions.
All right.
We'll do this one first. Only 2 coaches have ever taken 4 different teams to the Sweet 16 of the men's NCAA tournament.
2 taking 4 teams.
2 have taken 4 separate teams.
I know one right off the top of my head.
You're thinking about
which is
Calipari's
that's
number
one.
1.
That just happened.
Would Patino be in that group?
No, because he missed it. He could have been in that group, but he missed. Let me think for a minute.
Got to think of somebody that's bounced
I'm trying to
around,
think
too.
of somebody who's been to multiple places.
This is not in my wheelhouse.
No. And it's one of those names that you probably never think of the name, but then when you hear it, you're going, oh, yeah.
I'd like to say Jimmy Dillard of Tyner High School, but I don't. I just wanted to say his name. Hadn't said it in a long time.
Close, but that's not it.
It's not Bob Knight, because
No, it's not.
no, because I was going to say, I'm trying to think of people who coached well in multiple.
I'll give you a hint.
Somebody stayed somewhere.
Is it Bruce Pearl?
No. But the ball game that's currently on the monitor over here, he coached at one of those schools.
Well, it's obviously the Illinois guy. He's been around a while.
Joe B. Hall's who I'm thinking, but I know it's not.
The other school.
Illinois. Oh, I don't.
Lon Kruger.
Oh, God, I couldn't even. I knew who that
So the
was.
Illinois coach has done.
Well, I don't think he's there anymore. But he was
Kruger's. Yeah.
Okay, not this.
Lon Kruger.
Lon Kruger's like 90 years old at this point, isn't he?
If
he's even still alive.
Well, you got to start eliminating coaches that had long tenures.
So his was who? Illinois,
jumped around.
San Diego State,
Okay.
Michigan. I forget the other one.
because I mean Calipari.
I'd have
That's
to look it up.
Memphis, Kentucky, UMass, and Arkansas.
I'd have to look up the other one on Lon Kruger. Okay, other question.
Yeah.
This is pretty good.
Yeah, but the crazy thing about Calipari is if he makes it all the way to the finals, he'll have taken 4 different teams to the finals.
Yeah.
Well,
Only
technically.
3 men have ever won a national championship as a player and won a national championship as a coach.
3 of them's done that.
3 of them.
National championship player.
basketball or
Basketball.
Basketball.
NCAA men's basketball championship as a player and as a
Player
coach.
and as a coach. Okay.
Still not in my wheelhouse.
But these aren't exactly obscure names.
No, I was going to say these will be.
Lon Kruger not on the list.
No, not Kruger, not on the list.
Somebody.
What about my man at My man at UConn, Hurley.
Hurley, no.
No. How many? 3?
Yeah. 3. Only 3.
That's won a national championship.
As a player and as a coach. Not at the same school necessarily.
Yeah.
But obviously not Penny Hardaway.
Golly.
Nope.
Now that's going. Y'all keep talking. That's going. You're gonna let me think about that.
Well, we can
Okay.
keep talking, but I'm still not going to be able to come up with it. I don't know.
2 of the names have already been said.
Huh? 2 of the names already been said.
Yeah. While we were talking earlier.
I don't know, Scott. Go ahead.
Silence.
Give them to me.
Total silence. Don't look over here.
Because
One
I'm
of them-
gonna be mad. I
I'm
know.
not going
One of them
to
is Dean Smith.
I didn't know Dean
Dean
Smith was a
Smith.
player.
At Kansas.
Yeah.
One of them is named Bobby Knight.
Yeah. As a player at Army.
No, I think it was Ohio. Was it Ohio State?
Oh, that's right.
Is that
No,
where he was?
Army was his first coaching gig.
Yeah. But he won it, and then your guy that you mentioned a minute ago. I thought you'd come back for it.
Who?
Joe B.
Joe B. Oh, that's right, because he played for. He was on the Fiddlin' Five.
Yep.
That's right. I forgot about that. He
Joe
played
B.
for.
Hall.
Yeah.
The Fiddlin' Five.
He was on the 57, 58 champions. He played for Coach Rupp, and then he was Coach Rupp's most trusted assistant for all those years, and then he became the coach. He won at 78.
Coach and player at Kentucky.
That 78 team that he had was loaded. That was Goose Gibbons and Kyle Macy, and Kenny Skywalker was a freshman that year. That team was loaded.
Only 3 of them.
But remember, we've talked about this before. That 10 deep that Cal had. That goes undefeated until they run into
that Wisconsin team
until
full
they
of
run into
seniors.
28-year-old players.
Frank
that
the
are out
Tank.
there.
They just did a Maker's Mark at Kentucky. Every now and again, they will do a special University of Kentucky commemorative bottle. And they did last year or the year before. The commemorative bottle was for the 78 national championship team. And there was a liquor store off of campus up there. The last time we went up on Bourbon Trail, we went to that store off campus, and they had they had one that was autographed by Goose, Coach Hall, and Kyle. And they wanted $3,800 for that bottle. Yeah. And those bottles look about like that bottle that you got me for my birthday. They're that smoke, the smoked glass and all, gorgeous bottles. But
So as you exited, that bottle was still there.
Oh, that bottle was still there. They did one a couple of years ago. They did one for Calipari.
You didn't do a silent bid on it.
No. They did one for Calipari when he first got up there. They did one for the 96 national championship team about 8 years ago, I think. They did it. But yeah, they've done some really cool ones.
We got a silent bid from Lakeview. Yeah. That was offered $16.
Well, I'll tell you one I've told several people. Y'all know we talk about a little bit of everything on here, but I'll tell y'all something crazy. So, we talked about a year or two ago when this originally happened that McCallum Scotch had found a 65-year-old barrel in the back of one of their rack houses. And of course, they wound up bottling it. It was in very limited supply. They wanted to do something special, so they bottled it in Waterford crystal bottles, had these fancy wooden boxes with like velvet bags, the whole thing. And the suggested retail price on those bottles, because there's only like 100 in existence, was like $65,000. And they were expecting that they would sell at auction for anywhere from $150,000 to $200,000. Well, fast forward a few years, about a year ago, they were cleaning out another one of the old storehouses, and they found an 83-year-old barrel. So I just saw the thing where they did it. They bottled it in a bottle that looks like a donut, and this round bottle fits in the middle of this big ginormous wooden statue that you get when you buy it. And then there's a little bitty bottle that goes in the middle of the donut. The little bottle is 8-year Macallan, and the donut is 83-year Macallan. And the suggested retail price on that bottle is $180,000, and they're expecting that at all because there's only like 70 of those because of evaporation and all that. They're expecting that if it goes to public auction, there will be bottles that'll sell for over $1 million or more because it's and whoever buys it ain't gonna drink it. They're not gonna crack
I
that
was
open.
just going to say, there's going to be some rich drunks
Oh,
there.
I got y'all. So here's a
You want a shot? Open the checkbook.
all right. So here's the kind of a
You're saying they're not going to drink.
here's
They're
kind
just
of a
gonna buy it.
trivia question kind of thing, and y'all are TV fans, so you guys will know this too. So remember the TV show Good Times?
Oh yeah.
Okay. At the end of the television show Good Times, if you guys remember, the character of JJ was an artist. He was a painter on the show. At the end of Good Times, there was a painting that was always shown.
Right.
Number one, trivia question. What is the name of that painting?
I can see it in my mind, but I have no idea what it is.
The name of that painting was The Sugar Shack.
Okay.
Now, the original, there were only two in existence. The original was owned by a famous R&B singer who was shot by his father, Marvin Gaye. When Marvin Gaye was killed by his dad, the original was sold to one Beverly Hills Cop actor by the name of Eddie Murphy for about $46,000 in about 1986. Eddie was just starting to make money.
Sold it yesterday to collect that.
So, no. So there are two. The copy sold about a year and a half or so ago, and what I heard, Eddie is telling this story. He was on Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel when he's on one of the two shows. The copy sold for $16 million, and Eddie goes, and I got the original, and he goes, so I got that.
Yeah.
Whenever I can't make a movie
So
no more.
the copy sold for 16 mil. What do you think? The original goes for?
You know this answer?
No. It's not. No, he still he said he has no plan. He said that's going to take care of his kids for generations. Is what he said.
His Vanderbilt endowment plan.
Yeah.
Right there.
Just depends how much people want to auction it for, how much people just want to bid for. But if the copy went for 16, I mean, double it
At least 25, 30. Yeah. I've heard some crazy stuff here lately. Like in my class, we talk about a lot of that kind of stuff, and I was telling the kids a while back. Apparently, back in the 80s, there was a woman that went to a flea market and she bought a picture frame because she liked the frame. She got it home, she opened it up,
I know where this is going.
and it had an original copy of the Declaration of Independence in it. And eventually,
So they sent one to all the different states.
they sent one to all the different states.
This
This was one for And the woman gets it, and Norman Lear, famous for All in the Family and all the shows and stuff over the years that he had, and he paid $4.5 million for it in the mid '80s, and he just passed away. So I'd be curious to know if the family decided to auction that off in this era. That's
that's nine figures.
$1 billion.
9 figures minimum.
You're saying there was only 50 of those?
Oh no, there's 20. So
Scott said each state got it, but they wouldn't.
there was only only 13 states at the time. So there's only
Thank you.
so there is the original that is still missing to this very day. The original copy that was used for all the other copies, that one's
That's
gone.
missing.
What they call the fair copy, that one is still missing. The original signed copy is what we're talking about. There is an ornamental copy at Monticello, Thomas Jefferson's, and he didn't even take credit for writing it, even though he wrote it. But there's an ornamental copy, and then I think there's 27 total of the Dunlap broadsides, which are the copies. And of the 27, there's only 13 or 14 that the locations are known. There's like 13 or 14 that they don't know where they're at. So they're out there. So, you stumble upon one of those and you've pretty much insured your family's retirement for 3 generations.
Yeah. Well, and bring it back to sports, the Paul Skeens rookie card.
Oh,
He had his first
Yeah.
game patch from his jersey. It sold at auction for $1.1 million. I think that was that the one that the kid
Yes.
pulled in California.
That was when they
the
talked to
Pirates
Young
tried
Golden.
Well,
to get
barring
from him
him
stuff.
not losing his health, barring him not having arm or shoulder troubles, and we know how prevalent that becomes on pitchers. I mean, that's a guy that's probably Clemens like.
Oh, yeah.
In his records. Now I won't say he'll have Clemens records because they don't pitch as often as they did under Clemens' world, so he may not be able to account for that kind of production. But I think he will be Clemens like moving forward in the dominance. Barring that, we know that happens so easily nowadays.
I love the
And he dates Livy Dunn, so if nothing else, I got that to fall back on.
So
the Dunns of the Lakeview area.
Okay,
yes,
that Dunn.
Yeah. Speaking of, you talking about dating made me think of this, and
she's probably worth millions and millions now in NIL. So
and they're
going to be loaded.
We've not got a chance to talk about this on air, but you saying about dating made me think of it, and it just stuck in my mind. So Carson Beck, leaves Georgia, goes to Miami for what was it, like $4.5 million, something like that. So in the first 3 weeks he's been in Miami, his Lamborghini has been stolen. He got caught cheating on his girlfriend.
Oh, he was dating one of the...
He was one of the volleyball players or one of the...
Basketball
players. He got caught cheating on her. And there was one other thing. He got busted for something also, like DUI or something maybe. And I saw a meme the other day, and it was like those 3 things. And it's like, ladies and gentlemen, the U is back.
Well, Rico and Tubbs are down there, so this ain't Athens where you just drive around and do what you want to. Well, you do know who Rico and Tubbs.
Crockett Tubbs.
Crockett Tubbs. Okay, excuse me.
I was about to say, do you know who you are?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Anyway.
I know where you were going.
I knew what you meant.
If they're still in charge, you ain't getting away with nothing down there.
No.
And then his pet alligator, Elvis.
I'm surprised nobody's tried to reboot that.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I mean, they did the movie with Colin Farrell.
But you know they didn't do good about that movie? They shot 70% of that in the dark scenes.
I know.
When you want to see beautiful Miami, you're shooting it in the dark.
Yeah, and...
Well, they remake every TV show. I mean, they've done Magnum P.I. and Hawaii Five-0, and I'm surprised Miami Vice is such a well-loved show. And just to say it's coming back, they would be a
Michael Hurston is a huge fan of the Miami Vice soundtrack. I mean, especially the man who wrote most of the songs and stuff. But
John Hammer.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about Glenn Fry.
Oh, yeah.
It would be it would be tough to put those two characters back together and get it right.
But so if you rebooted it, would you reboot it modern day or would you reboot it
yesterday?
80s?
Oh, if you rebooted it and went and did it,
you would do it now.
Looking back and being able to have the modern day special effects and stuff like that, it could be. I think it would be really cool if you rebooted it to modern day, and Sonny Crockett is like the police chief.
He runs the show.
And Tubbs is like the mayor. So, he went on, because he was way more respectable than Crockett was. So he's gone on into politics, and either Crockett is still, the outlaw detective, or he's made his way up and he's
kind of like Top Gun 2.
Kind of like that. One of them has gone on.
He could be the lieutenant.
You could
running
the watch commander or something like that.
The show. But I think you have instant credibility. If you've got those two back on the cast.
Johnson right now is doing. He's on a show. What is the name of it? It's about a concierge boat. He's the captain. Chrissy and I have watched it.
I saw
the
clip.
Odyssey, the Odyssey. That's what it is. Yeah, and I don't know that Philip Michael Hall's been seen.
Thomas.
Yeah, Philip Michael Thomas.
You know why it's failing? It's matched up against Law and Order.
Yeah, and nothing.
You got to pay attention when you throw a show out there. Who you match it up with?
You can't match anything up against Law and Order.
You create suicide.
Well, and also, do you want to reboot a show like that?
Miami Vice. Yeah. I think
some of these shows, like Knight Rider. Would you reboot Knight Rider?
No, Knight Rider
would you reboot the A-Team?
Now the A-Team has potential. You could because I loved the movie.
The movie
really was phenomenal. I mean, I think the A-Team has potential. I don't think there's a lot of them that we look back on. I mean, I think you could remake Starsky and Hutch, but it would be, what would you do there? There's other shows that you can't. you'd never reboot the Dukes of Hazzard. You'd never, there's a lot that you couldn't reboot. It wouldn't fit.
MASH, you couldn't.
No, I mean, and that's the thing. MASH was, I will always believe that is one of the 3 or 4 best, most perfect episodic television shows ever, because MASH had everything.
Mm.
It was funny as could be at times, but it could rip your heart out at the same time, and it did it all in the same episode.
Mm.
And that made it such a great show, because you couldn't pigeonhole MASH and say it was a comedy. You couldn't pigeonhole it and say it was just a drama, because it was funny. It was just such a perfectly written show. And I don't know, man. I mean, I love the remake of Magnum PI is really good.
It's not bad.
It is very good. I mean, and I also love the way that the remake pays homage to the original.
Yeah.
All the original characters have made an appearance except for Tom Selleck.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping at some point,
now that they're done with Blue Bloods,
I'm hoping that it turns out.
Have a paycheck for a week.
Yeah, I'm hoping when it all is said and done on Magnum, that when you meet Robin Masters for the first time, that it's Selleck.
that'd be pretty cool. I remember the first time we went to Vegas in 2011, and we went to Studio City.
Mm-hmm.
They had a thing, and so it was free, and so they brought us in, and they're like, "We're going to show you a brand new show. We're going to show you the pilot episode, and it hasn't aired yet, and we just want your feedback on it." And we sat down and put earphones on and had our screens, and we got to see the pilot of the remake of Hawaii Five-0.
Oh yeah.
So we got to see that before everybody else did, and so we ended up watching that for about the first 2 seasons.
Good.
We watched it pretty religiously every week, but then we just stopped watching after a while. But it was pretty good.
There's a lot of factors you got to have. You got to have outstanding writing to keep a program on there, Scott. Because anytime some writers can come on and they can get you that first year, but to continue that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe those writers don't stay with that show; they hop off somewhere else. But it's more than just having a quality cast. It's holding on to writers, and I'm not so sure that's as easily done in today's world as it was back in those strong TV days that people stayed.
It always worries me, like, and whenever new shows come on, especially if they're CBS shows, because most of their shows are really, really good. It always worries me that the new ones in that first season, that they try to accomplish too much in that first season just to get your attention.
Yeah.
Like a really good example of that to me is, and it's an ABC show, but I really like it because I love Nathan Fillion, is a show called The Rookie.
Oh, my wife loves
and it's a great, great show. But that first season of The Rookie, the amount of crap that guy went through in that first season, it's like, good God, how much more are you going to put this poor man through? I mean, now in recent years, it's slowed down and it's been more deliberate. It's been a great show. I will tell you that I read the other day, we talked about Blue Bloods. I did read the other day that there is going to be a spinoff. It's going to be Wahlberg is going to.
Yeah, Donnie Wahlberg.
They're going to focus on him. So.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in agreement. I think we all are.
But I love that show.
I think a remake, Scott, of Miami Vice.
I think it would work.
It is crucial to get the quality actors on it.
Yeah.
But I think if they could have Tubbs or Crockett, either one, particularly both, instant credibility comes back.
Yeah. I liked your idea of making one of them like the
you need
police
them.
commissioner or something
You need
like that.
them. And is Edward James Olmos still alive? If he's still alive and you can even work him in a little ways,
I wouldn't bet my life that I would know if he is.
The movie was terrible, but I'll tell you a show that I wouldn't mind, and everybody will laugh when I say it, but I'll tell you one that I wouldn't mind seeing a remake of. I'd like to see him try Chips again. I think Chips could work.
Chips
I think
is
that
why
could
my
be
brother became a police officer.
I mean, I really think that's a show in the modern era.
He just don't get to enforce the 405 out there.
Yeah, I really think that's one that you could make into a good show. I really do think that you could do that.
Well, they got even more traffic out there. You want to put a police officers out there on their motorcycles?
Still alive?
Still alive.
See, that could be, you make him like he's like Sonny's
Just-
advisor, every now and then you got that
just
episode where Sonny goes to take him something and sit down with him and just talk to him because he needs advice, and he still leans on him all these years later. And,
But
I mean,
Just turned 78.
here's
yeah,
another twist. He was burnt out on that side,
yeah.
and he went to the dark side.
Oh,
He used to
Drug
be one of
kingpin?
them.
drug
He used to
kingpin.
be one of them.
Oh man, that could be.
Now he floats from Cuba.
And that's your, and then that's the thing.
Ron Johnson, 75.
Who could you see playing? Who could you see playing Crockett? Or like the new, because you would want similar. You don't necessarily have to have a white guy and a black guy. You want similar vibes.
There'd be some people run from those
And Philip
roles.
Michael Thomas is still alive. 75.
There'd be some people run from those roles.
Oh, I think so
Scared that
too,
they couldn't
because they're
pull it off.
iconic.
Yeah, 'cause they
I
couldn't
mean-
pull it off.
And in your defense, his name was Ricardo Tubbs.
Yeah, Ricardo Tubbs.
So you were close.
Yeah. Well, one of those three goes on to be running things out of Cuba because they were just burnt out of being on the other
that
side. They got bought out.
original Ferrari that Crockett
The
drove.
white one?
No, the blue one. The
Right.
Navy 1978 Ferrari Daytona Spider is the first one that he drove, and then when it got blown up, then they gave him the white Testarossa, is what he had later on in it.
Where if
But
those cars are still around somewhere?
what those movie cars?
Yeah.
One of them's in the.
No, the ones in the
In the
show.
movie. Well, they blew one of them up.
Oh, I'm
Scott.
sure. Well, yeah.
I'm sure they had another.
I'm sure you could get them. I mean, that Testarossa. Last time I was in Gatlinburg at the famous car museum. I want to say it was in the famous car museum up there, or one of them was. Maybe the Daytona was up there, but one of them was in that George Barris museum up there. But yeah, I definitely. But y'all are right. I mean, we've reached that stretch now that bothers me because there's so many good movies and we just keep remaking the same. We keep. I mean, how many damn Fast and Furious are we gonna have before it's over with? I mean, don't get me wrong. The last 6 or 8 have been phenomenal, but
We're up to 10.
they're at the second half of 10 is coming up. Supposedly this is the last one. We
need a good baker's dozen. I would say.
we'll see. There's I was trying to think. A bunch of the shows have come back now for like Righteous Gemstones has come back for their last season.
I've got to start watching.
Oh god,
the first 3 seasons.
so great. Ted Lasso is season 4 is in production as we speak. Sudeikis is involved because I have seen production shots of him and Coach Beard walking in Richmond. There is a new season of Drive to Survive. F1 dropped a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, Full
PJ
Swing.
Tour Full Swing is back. There's some good. If you are a basketball fan, and if you are a basketball fan similar to myself, or just if you're a basketball fan in general, if you got HBO Max, Celtic City is phenomenal. The first episode centers mainly on John Havlicek and on Kuzi and Russell, and then they talk about Havlicek. They've gone into right now. I'm on the 3rd episode, and they're touching all different eras, but they've gone kind of different directions in each one. So they've talked about all the different parts of.
I guess you saw the sale went through.
Yes. What?
So the guy
How many
buys the
billion?
Celtics,
8 billion?
6
$6 billion?
He sells it for 6.1 billion, and he bought it for 360 million.
People on Jerry Jones, ain't it?
That's not bad. Speaking of reboots,
Yeah.
John Cena.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I don't think anybody was expecting that.
No.
I don't like the hair though, man. He's gonna have to shave the head or something.
Yeah, I don't know, but this late in your career,
Yeah.
to just go completely 180 and go heel, I love it.
And he's
I
like,
absolutely love it.
he is owning it too. Like
Yes.
it's not like he's just doing it on air. Like he is. Like I wonder if he's even still, which I'm sure he's still
It's
doing
kayfabe.
Make-A-Wish stuff. But I wonder if he's even laid back on some of that.
I probably has, because you know what? I mean, in a couple months, WrestleMania is over with, and he's done. He can go
Well,
right back to doing it again.
Let me go back to another thing that has happened here in the last couple of weeks, and I didn't get a chance to watch the whole match. I only saw the one spot.
Oh,
But if you have not seen the video of John Moxley taking Spike to the back from Edge.
Cope. It's Cope.
Yeah,
now.
from Cope. Yeah, I mean that was hard to watch.
I didn't
Spike
see it.
is the bat with the nails,
Oh yeah.
Just covered with
and
nails
he
sticking out.
suplexed him onto it.
Well, he hit him in the stomach with it first of all, which had to hurt. Then he hits him in the back with it.
Mhm.
And who's he done this to?
To
He
Moxley.
did the Moxley.
And Moxley did it to
No,
him.
it's-
Cope
it's
did
laying-
it. Edge did it to
Spike
Moxley.
is laying on the ground. He picks him up and he suplexes him onto it. And when Moxley sits up, it is legit
It's stuck.
in his back.
Yeah, it's stuck.
You can see the skin moving around. Because even Tommy Dreamer was
Oh.
like, okay, that's
I would like to know.
gnarly. And I was in ECW.
I would like to know how many zeros that
Uh-huh.
took, and I would like to know what that check was, because I
Yeah.
promise you, it was a lot.
I put that out there because I remember Chris Jericho talking.
Yeah.
He
He got 75,000
he
for
went and
the
did some
thumbtacks
and
at the Extreme Rules that year.
he's like, I don't want to do it, and Vince is like, I'll pay you $75,000.
Okay.
All right,
Let's do it.
Maybe it won't hurt.
But
that's one of the
and I
that.
know people were saying, oh, it was a gimmick. It was
Huh.
no, it was not. So
No, it was not. When you can watch the ref
you can
was
see the nails are bent.
the ref was holding it like this, and was going to pull it, and Mox's whole body's going back with him.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it was stuck.
I thought he was
And-
going to put his foot on his back.
Yeah, like that was.
Was that in one of their recent pay-per-views?
That was at no, it was on.
that was on regular
national
TV.
TV the other night on the Wednesday night show.
I didn't see it.
Yeah,
That really like
it's all over the internet. If you haven't seen, if you're a wrestling fan, take a look. I hope you're. There's not a whole lot of blood.
no,
You
which is surprising.
would, you would think there would be, but there's not. But
There's a
I
whole
mean,
lot of pain.
Oh, I promise you that.
yeah, he sold it, but he didn't have to sell it too hard because I'm sure that did not feel good.
Big loss in the boxing world this week.
Oh,
if,
yeah.
if you hadn't seen it yet, most of it
In the
probably
home grill,
Probably,
world.
yeah, in the home grill world. But we lost George Foreman this week, and I mean, you think about it now that
And I had forgotten this. At one time, he was 40-0.
yeah,
Now that's pretty stout.
yeah.
I mean, to get 40-0, I mean that's pretty stout.
How was he? How old was he when he won the championship
45.
again?
45.
45-ish.
See, that's what really blew my mind was I remember when he beat Lennox Lewis for the top, or Michael Moore for the top,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember then being a kid and thinking, man, that guy's old, and he was 45. He won the heavyweight championship at 45 years old, and we, looking back on it now, like when I heard the other day he was only 70-something years old, I was like, well, I would never have thought. I would have thought he was in his 80s or 90s at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I did hear this
But-
too. At the peak of his endorsements, I don't know if you
Oh
know,
God,
$8 million a month.
a month.
A month
Good
at the peak
Lord.
of his endorsements.
I had
How long did that last? I don't
Huh?
know.
I had one.
Oh, we still got a Foreman grill upstairs.
I had one.
I tell you, well, never mind. I don't know what I was going to tell you.
What's your Foreman grill worth, Rusty?
Oh yeah, I mean,
At silent auction.
I
Every
saw
time I
that.
can't think of Foreman grill, I keep thinking of the line from The Office when Michael Scott stepped on the Foreman.
Yo, yeah.
You burned your foot on a Foreman grill.
No, I thought it was in the bed with him or something. Didn't he have? He was making hot
No,
dogs in bed
no,
while
no.
watching TV
He
or something like
liked
that.
to wake up to the smell of bacon.
That's what it was.
So he
yeah.
plugged it in. He went back to sleep. He put bacon on it, went back to sleep, woke up when he smelled it, and he tripped and stepped on it, and it closed on his foot.
Okay.
Because he had it wrapped in bubble wrap, and he's like, "What does that look like to you, Stanley?" He's like, "Mailboxes, etc."
I mean,
Were you shipping your foot?
I remember what I was going to tell you guys now. So I flipped over the other day, and when I was sick a couple of weeks ago, I kind of kept myself busy through the day. I went back onto Hulu and was watching all the old Dark Side of the Rings because, the new season is supposed to be coming out here in the next couple of weeks.
I saw some of the lineup.
The very first episode is going to be the Hell in a Cell with them and Mick Foley going through the whole thing. But then there's other ones. I was trying to remember what all the other ones I've seen. There was
Daphne.
Daphne's one.
There's like Tony Atlas.
Tony Atlas. Yeah, that one. I look forward to the Tony Atlas one. There were some really good ones. But we got to, me and Matt Holden at school the other day, we got to talking about the Dark Side of the Rings, the Tales from the Territories, some of those old wrestling shows. So I'll ask y'all the same. Of all those dark sides of the ring, So 2 questions. One, which one of all of them do you think was your favorite? And what is one moment out of all those shows that maybe ruined somebody for you or just completely hit you out of left field?
Well, I didn't get to see all the Dark Side of the Rings.
Or really any of, the territories, the biographies, because I tell y'all, mine that hit me out of left field was I never realized what a jerk that the Ultimate Warrior was. And having been a kid in that era and thinking, he was the bigger than life superhero.
Yeah, he was not very
and finding out what a piece of garbage that the guy was.
And I don't know.
That hurt.
You may know this better than I. I don't know what it was that he religiously did that made the locker room not like him. Was it in the ring? Was it out of the ring?
It was a little bit of everything. Like, Jake the Snake talked about, or Jim Cornette talked about the fact that he didn't try to learn the craft. He wanted everybody to just lay down for him. He wanted to go out there and do squash matches, and that was it. And that he just, they all could tell that he didn't respect the business. He wanted everything handed to him. Once he got to be champion, he wanted to make like Hulk Hogan money, and Hulk Hogan had earned that money for years leading up to that.
One of my favorite ones, it was Tales from the Territory. It was the one of, I forget the name of the Polynesian.
Yeah, Polynesian wrestling.
Yeah. That was kind
of my idea.
Because that was one of the few, if you remember cable TV around here in the 80s, wrestling was so cheap to produce that once World Class started doing it, everybody went to syndication.
All you had to have was a singular camera shot.
And Chattanooga started buying up so many different wrestling promotions. Of course, there was one locally in town with Harry Thornton and
Nick Gillis.
But we could watch AWA and World Class and Memphis.
You could watch AWA and World Class on ESPN.
Yeah, we could see all of it. But Polynesian was one of the few that we didn't get. We didn't get like Houston wrestling. Yeah. I don't think we got like the ones from like Portland and stuff like that.
We get Mid-South every now and again.
Yeah, but
that's one that's coming up. Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert is one coming up. I'm looking forward to that one.
Superstar Billy Graham.
Yeah, Superstar Billy Graham.
I won't use this gentleman's name, and he won't mind if I did, but not. He's one of my policyholders. I saw him a couple of weeks ago, and he was complaining about, man, I've got the worst haircut I've ever had in my life. I said, but it did kind of look like a Memphis Coliseum hair versus hair match that you were involved. He said, no, I actually paid for this.
I tell you, of all the ones I've seen...
You have to tell me. I got an idea, but you have to tell me.
My favorite was probably the one about the Road Warriors was pretty high on my list. Yeah, but the Tales from the Territory about Jim Crockett Promotions, because of all the wrestling I watched as a kid, nothing meant more to me than being at home on Saturday evening to watch 2 hours on WTBS of, Dusty Rhodes and Nikita Koloff and the Road Warriors versus the Four Horsemen. And there's a story on there where they tell about Jim Cornette, the James boys. It was, basically it was Magnum and Dusty under hoods.
Oh, yeah.
And they put a noose around his neck, and they made it look like they were going to drag him behind a pickup truck. And Baby Doll hit the gas a little too hard. And the only thing that saved Cornette's life was Bobby Eaton had gotten his fingers far enough under the rope to flip it up and over Cornette's chin.
So it was something that was fixing to go astray.
And like Cornette said, he goes, back in those days, he said, you had one shot. There wasn't all that production of, this, that, and the other. He's like, we're out there with like handheld VHS cameras.
Yeah.
But that one,
I saw something the other day, and it was obviously the late Sid Vicious talking about his latter years, and that he quit after saying, his finishing hoe, the big power bomb, that somebody had been allowed to kick out of it the last month. And he said, if they kick out tonight, then I'm done. And that's when he said he left WWE.
I can see that.
Which was WWF.
I saw Jake the Snake on something a while back, and they asked him, they said, when you were out there, they're like, the DDT was like the baddest thing there was. And he goes, yeah. He said, now they throw it, like third move of the match. And they're like, well, does it bother you that now the DDT is not, and he goes, nope. He goes, you know why? And they said, why? He said, because every time somebody throws it, he said, some announcer will go, no DDT ever in wrestling was more devastating than Jake the Snake Roberts. And he said, I just sit back and smile.
He was on, I saw about a 15-minute clip. I think it was Undertaker's podcast that Jake was on. And
6 feet under.
Yeah, it was really, really good.
Well, we've talked about it numerous times of all the finishing holds that aren't finishing holds anymore.
That one.
I mean, that's the reality of that. Those finishing holds.
Didn't somebody once use the abdominal stretch was a finishing hold?
Oh, yeah.
Side headlock was a finishing hold at one time.
Sunset flip.
Sunset flip.
The
claw.
The sleeper.
The sleeper hold. Roddy Piper used that till the day he retired.
The heart punch.
Oh, Stan Stasiak.
Ox Baker.
Oh, yeah, Ox Baker. I think
the old heart punch.
Yep.
You leave them for dead out there.
Yep.
The Polish hammer.
Ivan Putski.
What was the move?
He threw him into the rope and then came like this.
Double axe handle. Double axe handle.
Well, just as vicious as any of the other ones.
Well, folks, we appreciate you being on with us tonight. We always have a good time. Moving forward, we'll probably another couple of weeks we'll be on Sunday night, but you get us to the summer and we'll be back on Wednesdays where everything's a little easier for everybody else. But a lot of stuff about to really kick off. You got baseball in the area is about to start getting into the playoffs.
Congratulations,
tournaments.
Gordon Lee, 16-0, ranked number 1 in the state. Scott,
Yeah.
Looks like
A lot of stuff upcoming.
They've
they can't get beat.
They've played 9 region games right now, and I think they have 9 more to go. Now they've still got to play Dade County and Fannin County, who I believe are like tied for second right now. But they've played, I think, 9 region games, if I'm not mistaken, and the total combined score is 107-8.
Golly.
That sounds like travel ball versus rec ball.
Yeah, it does.
And they played Heritage Saturday.
Good travel ball.
Beat them 10.
And that's
And Heritage is like
I was going to
12
say,
and 5.
Heritage is no slouch.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, Gordon Lee's just, they've got 1 through 9 can absolutely rake. They've got about 4 or 5 really good starting pitchers. This is a team, honestly, you asked me earlier.
And can they run it?
Can they run the table? Yeah. I don't know if they will because it's baseball.
Yeah.
But
But
they could.
they could.
They could. And I don't know who down the line in the playoffs they would get, because now, you really can't tell because, used to you would match up regions. Now you've got the power rankings, so you never know who you're going to get. But at this point, they're probably going to be the number 1 seed all the way up till, the finals or whatever if they keep winning.
I may be offbeat when I say this, Scott, but if we went back.
Oh, Kentucky versus Tennessee, Sweet 16.
Yeah, all you SEC fans, the matchup is in place now.
If we went 25 years.
Let the trash talk begin.
20 years of high school baseball, you could argue that Gordon Lee's been as consistently successful as anybody we've had in there.
I agree.
Yeah.
Minus some of the state championships that the Baylor's put
They're
up.
right
and
there
the McCauley
with-
put up. But they are just there all the time.
Yep.
All the time.
Yeah.
They are.
Just
Yeah.
like that softball does.
Had several Sweet 16, Elite 8 appearances, Final 4 appearances, and then they played for a state title. I think it was when they were a single A team, because I know they jumped to Double A and then jumped back. But there was, if you take those 2 years out, there was like a 6 or 7 year run, or at least a 6-year run, where they played for the state championship every single year. And I think they won 3 and lost 3.
And they were willing during the season to play teams
Everybody.
that were successful in upper classifications too. They didn't shy away from that as well, which I always thought, at least that got them prepared to face one of those tough foes in a playoff.
Yeah. So,
Folks, tune back in next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. We'll catch you guys on the backside. We lost Choo Choo for the time being. Jeff Sullivan. Called me. He
sold the
me.
business?
Yeah. He called me last week while
When
I
did
was.
that happen?
He called me last week. He said, "Hey, man," he said, "First off, he said, I want to tell you, your son's safe." He said, "Nobody's being let go from the business or anything." He said, "But," he said, "I have a guy. He's a Texas guy looking for a restaurant all over the table." He said, he basically called me up and basically offered I could. And he said, I didn't have any intention of selling. He said, "But,
Well,
you
the
guys
days
been
are
good
short
to me."
and the nights are long. A room slowly fills with song.
You know, first,
All I need is one
I am already
reminder.
lost in this guy.
Parkway, blue blinders.
About a week and a half.
Well, I begged and cheated and I borrowed for my life
Well,
upon the road. I'm still looking for some gold at the end of my rainbow. Yes, someday I will find her on a parkway, blue blinder. Someday I will find her. Yes, someday I will find her on a parkway, blue blinder. On a parkway, blue blinder. On a parkway.
In that place. And what I want to do
On a parkway,
yeah,
on an autumn day. Yes, and leaves fall like confetti in a New York parade.
I was like, yeah, that's what I told her. I was like, well, you would think that if the guy wrote him, I mean, I'm gonna guess, and I'm
Yes, and leaves
just
fall like confetti in a New York parade.
over me, right at least, I would give at least because I mean, think about the success of that location, where it sits.